What were some plans that you had on March 1st? Maybe you planned to take a vacation, a trip. Maybe you had an elective surgery. Maybe there was a wedding that you planned to be a part of. Maybe a graduation. All those plans were blown out of the water. A lot of disappointment. No one saw this total devastation of plans that we had. No one saw this coming. This morning I want to look briefly at three truths found from the Epistle of James, chapter 4, verses 13 through 15. Here's the first thing. Life is uncertain. Life is uncertain. James writes this in James 4:13. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city and spend a year there and engage in business and make a profit. Charles Spurgeon said this: there are two great certainties about things that shall come to pass. One is that God knows, and the other is that we do not know. Life is uncertain. And what James was getting at was this boastful attitude, this prideful attitude that we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But the problem was God was not in it. Now, James does not discourage us from planning. The scripture is very clear. We should plan and plan diligently. Nothing wrong with planning. But the problem is planning apart from reliance upon God. Planning is good, but make sure there's always room for God in your plans to maybe change your plans. Your plans need to be constantly aware of the hand of God. So life is uncertain. Here's a second truth that James tells us. Life is short. Life is short. James 4:14. Yet you do not know what your life will be like tomorrow. You are just a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes away. You don't know what your life's going to be like tomorrow. He says that you are a vapor. I think of fog on the causeway. Many mornings that there's fog on the causeway, but by mid-morning the fog has burned off. What a picture of life. Life is short. And you do not know what your life will be like tomorrow. No one on January 1st of this year could have predicted all the things that have happened, all the plans of millions and millions of people that was shattered. Only God did. And only He knows what tomorrow will bring. A few weeks ago, I ran into an old friend who I hadn't seen in many years, and his wife had passed away. He'd been married for 43 years. And one of the things he told me was, man, life is so short. Those 43 years together, poof, they were gone. Where did it all go? Disappointments are part of life. Now, we are taught that our happiness is based on external things. Your health, your wealth, your possessions, your status. But sometimes they can crash. They can just vanish away. There's nothing more important than maintaining our inward spiritual life. So life is uncertain. Life is short. Now here's a chance to make a change, to reorder your life. How? Here's the third thing. Life needs to be lived with dependence on God. James writes in chapter 4, verse 15, instead you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and also do this or that. Some political pundit a few years back made the statement that we should not let a crisis go to waste. He was talking politically. I say the same spiritually. Do not let your crises go to waste. For a number of you, for many of you, I'm sure, that this has been a domestic reboot. That domestic list, the chores you wanted to do, that have been sitting there maybe for years, maybe you've gotten them done. A lot of people I know have been doing yard work and projects around the house. A chance to reboot in the last couple of months. How about a spiritual reboot? He says, if the Lord wills, that you begin including the Lord in all of your plans. Right now. How do you do that? Well, James has told us the context right before these verses in James chapter 4, verse 6 through verse 8 writes this. But he gives a greater grace. Therefore it says, God is opposed to the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit therefore to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Listen, it's not too late to reboot. How? You humble yourself. You submit to God. You draw near to God in this time of isolation, in this time of social distancing. You begin to humble yourself and seek God's wisdom for your life found in His Word. Maybe you've never done that before. Now is the time to make that change, because God is very clear. His grace is available to you. His mercies are new every morning. His compassions fail not. Life is uncertain. Life is short. Life needs to be lived with dependence upon God. Lord, begin to reorder my world. Begin to reorder my heart. Let my priorities now fall under your priorities. My life is yours. Stay safe. Stay in touch with each other. Stay close to Jesus.